I started to recording our course, so maybe, I don't know, later, maybe I can link this record, so you may, see if you need. Okay, so I don't know where Lori and
Darius.
Yeah, Darius, so okay. So today, what we will do is in your, through whole this program, even after that, you will have, the logic. Whatever, when you write down your manuscript, logic is needed. And then when you write down research proposal, you also need logic. So logical argument is really, really important. So this week, I reviewed one manuscript, and what I can say is I just told the people that I gave the longest comment, for one manuscript.
Oh, so,
wow. If you hear me, you will be so surprised because I gave, single space more than 10-page comments, for
this. Wow.
The reason is, one reason was it came from another country that, English is not the native, language. So that's why almost each sentence was incorrect in some ways. So I know if I say you need to revise this one or the meaning is unclear, I know those people having difficulty to revise. So I just clearly point out, put the original statement, and then I put which one is incorrect, and then how they can correct it. So that's why it's very long. But on the other hand, in logical process, what they did was they used the 3-group randomized controlled intervention. So it's not frequent in that country. The problem is introduction to person say like this: A intervention was effective in improving the outcome. B intervention is effective in improving the outcome. And then they combine the A plus B, that is C. So they provide 3, interventions. So A alone, B alone, and A plus B. And then so they said that they examined like that. Can you see any logical flow here? Mm-hmm. So they say A alone effective, B alone effective, and then they combine the A plus B to develop, another intervention.
I can see where the intent to create something logical, because certainly in math, A plus B, you like it to equal C. But I think in some cases, it may not always work out that way. Of course, we're nurses and we know there's really all the gray areas of healthcare. So, but I can see the intent in building a foundation or a structure, start creating that framework of A plus B and C, and then but being part of this process is learning how to break away from that sometimes, because you may have to go back and realize, well, maybe B plus D equals E, and that's part of it. But I can see the development of the logic in that.
Okay. And a huge assumption off of what Contessor said. I mean, again, there's a huge assumption there, just to say, like you'd mentioned, these two and then these two, and then at the end you're joining them together, but yet what's your basis for that?
Okay, and then let us say, so from the literature you found that A alone is effective, B alone is effective. Then you combine the A plus B, and there is a huge logical gap or logical kind of fallacies. So you will learn about logical fallacies today. So can you find any logical fallacies? So when they develop the intervention, of a 3-group randomized controlled trial based on the evidence that A is effective, B is effective?
Well, it could just be guilt by association, right? Is a logical fallacy, possibly, and moving from kind of deductive from more general to specific. Could just be guilt by association.
Okay, I can give you one hint. When you conduct your own study, one important component, if you submit your research proposal for funding, the same thing. One important component is innovation. So your study should be based on what has done or what has been known in the literature, right? However, your study should have some innovative part, which is different from the previous studies. So if you consider that fact, what's the problem in this study?
Well, now you're kind of going in a different direction. So you used those theoretical bases to put a frame for yours, but now your outcome should be different because now your pathway is a little bit different. But you've used that logical base, but now you have to kind of create something different. Am I going the right way?
Well, and I agree, kind of the either or fallacy, maybe that might not.
So you can, think about many, different things. But what I pointed out is, first of all, I say, okay, if A and B, each of them, already have been known to be effective, to the outcome, why you have to test it again?
Very true. Very true.
Okay.
That is always a fundamental basis for your research. And then people will always ask, then you don't need to do, conduct your study because it already has been known. Second point is, if A alone is effective to outcome, B alone is effective to the outcome, then why you have to combine the A and B? If each one alone impacts the outcome.
So you would not have any new information.
No. So in that case, let's assume that A is effective, B is effective. Then how can you, in what circumstances, you can justify the need of your study in this situation? Can you think about anything? So making, reviewer, oh, okay, yes, you need to conduct your own study. This is a real situation, right?
If you want to see how the two impact each other, possibly, how the two...
Or if you're bringing another variable into it, I can, that's really all I can think of is yes, A was effective and B was effective, but now your approach or your, whatever your thesis is has a different variable with it that may actually warrant the need for not even necessarily totally new research, but expanding it or, taking a little bit of a left turn, kind of going a little deeper.
I think too.
Yes.
Sorry, go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, it's okay.
In part, that can be applied. For example, if a previous study examined the effect of A on outcome, let's say Q. Okay, so outcome Q, and then later when you review the literature, you found this intervention not only impact outcome Q, maybe R and also S. So not one outcome, but 3 outcome it's a possibly impact. Then it can, justify, not, as you say, not very innovative, but at least, I mean, we can see this one can be used for other, cases. So you can expand, right? The utilization of this innovation.
Yeah. And I think, looking at processes, like, you're speaking of outcomes and so forth, but what were the processes and the framework by how they got to those outcomes, and looking at expanding the science in that manner. We have such a point of just looking at outcomes, but instead of, well, how, what were the processes, work of how you got there?
Yes, there are, several different ways. For example, even though the same intervention, you may change the delivery method. Right? For example, you have a home visit, and then you say, we just, using kind of the internet or app. So patient, the interventionist does not need to visit, the house, but instead of that, they can, practice at home. It can reduce the cost, that kind of thing. But another part of what I can tell you is how they can, work with this is they can say like this, not only finding the most effective, articles, they always have to search articles in balanced way. So unless the innovation 100% effective, they may find, the same innovation but was not effective. Then they can say, this one showed, in some study effective, but some study not, effective. So it should be, tested further. Or you can say, even though that's effective, but the effects was a minimum. So we need to, find some other ways to improve the outcome further. So let's say A is effective but partially, B is effective but partially. Then you can provide a justification why you have to combine A and B together. So that is one way they can justify their study. Second way, another way what they can do is they can say like this. This intervention, tested in Western world, but not, in these area, countries, but our, culture, have somewhat different from, those Western countries. So we have to test whether this intervention also worked in, this area, that kind of a thing. So yes, there are some ways that they can work with it. That's why I had to spend, many pages to ask them what is the problem in logical flow or logical argument, and then how they can fix it. So that kind of a thing, this kind of a thing is not only unique, this manuscript, but it's a very easy for, the beginner researchers.
Oh, sure.
Because they try to find, they want to use this intervention. So what they wanted to prove, eagerly prove that this intervention is effective. But one handicap of that kind of attitude is emphasize too much this intervention is effective. They lost the innovation part. And then ultimately people, reviewers say exactly the same thing. So what? So it already has been known. Why are you testing again?
This so goes. Oh, I'm sorry. I was just going to say this so ties in with what we're doing right now in stats, does it not, y'all? Where we're the null hypothesis, statistical testing, and just looking for significance, but losing sight of everything else.
Yes. So when you do, later you will do systematic literature review to know what has been known, and then it will be basis for, your own study, right? At that time, really, really important thing is also find limitations that are directly connected to your own research. But when you do that, another, beginner researchers make a common mistake is users talk about every mini tiny limitations from the previous research. The problem is if you do not deal with it, for example, I saw one student say, small sample, small sample, small sample. The problem, her research is a pilot study, so she will also have a small sample.
Yes.
Then you emphasize the small sample, small sample, small sample. And other, reviewers say, okay, then why you have a small sample if a small sample is a, big problem?
Right.
So we cannot, disguise the truth. But the research is, here is a big picture, and then you only take a part of it, not, everything. So that's why you have to very, focused. When you do logical argument, your argument should be very focused. So this is your research, not, you don't say here, here, here. You have to say about here. That is really important. And then as a beginner, it's not, easy to focus because you have too many to talk. And then one common, thing of a human being, if they put their effort and knowledge, they don't want to delete it. They want to keep it.
Yes. And I know for myself, it's so much easier seeing that in other people's work than my own. I can't see the hand, in front of my face, as we say, but you can see it when you're reading other literature. Of course, it's very clear, but
yeah. So in part, I think that is because our own work, we put our value.
yes.
So I already put value. So I don't want to discard the valuable things. So sometimes one difficult is, the faculty say, delete it, delete it, delete it. Student continue to return. And then one faculty just yesterday told me that, so they deleted. And then later, the student returned the next version, she put it again.
Well, I think as a student, we want to make a big difference and we get excited, so we don't want to leave anything out because it makes a difference, we're passionate about it. And to delete,
yes.
I can see how that's hard.
I know, so that's why, I just say, in general, student perception is if they put, more, and then they think, it's a better, but actually, in, one example of math, you can, think about, for example, 2 plus 2, the only answer is 4. So if, student put 4 and 6, that student gave a wrong answer. Not, partly correct or partly wrong, but overall the answer is wrong. But narrative is exactly the same, essay the same. If you put, correct answer to and wrong answer, that's a wrong answer ultimately. What does show is you don't know what the problem is, you don't know what the answer is correctly. So that's why, especially logical argument, you have to be very focused, and then you have to cut, the branches, and then just, use the main branches. Okay. So what I will do is I wanna just share some, okay, and then.
And I like how you've made the page assignments really small, like for the arguments, because that is tough, but it's keeping us unfocused with the arguments that are coming up to create. I thought that was really good.
Yes, because it's, our temptation is if we know something and then we have a passion to talk about everything.
Right.
But that is in general, just blur our focus. And then so other people cannot understand clearly because we deliver, too much. Yeah. So everybody can see this PowerPoint?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So I believe that you read, the article, and then how do you think in, article, what is an issue concerning the doctorate in nursing practice? We commonly call DNP. According to, this order, what is the problem?
It has less meta-theoretical focus. is
So
one.
what does that mean?
Well, meta theory would guide how we practice.
Mm-hmm.
So there's less, I guess, roots there with DNP, possibly in the past.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Yes. Less emphasis on science again, kind of to lead in with what Ashley's saying in terms of theory and again, science.
Mm-hmm. Yes. So, the authors say there is, less meta, theoretic focus.
Mm-hmm.
And if this is true, what is the problem?
Well, again, kind of the claim as to what she offered, both of them offer, that the claim is that, it lacks that rigorous, research curriculum.
Mm-hmm.
Unlike the PhD, that she is sharing that with.
Mm-hmm.
And, the grounds for how that is going to impact evidence-based practice and nursing practice.
Mm-hmm. So let's just say this is a personal level. Let's just say you do not have a clear your own perspective.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So perspective in general, just rules your thought, right? And then you are, thinking, and then your behavior. So if you do not have a very clear your own perspective, and then what happens if you do not have it?
Oh, you follow everyone else.
Right.
Yes. You are very influential by those people who have a strong and clear perspectives, right?
Right.
So in discipline, the same thing. If, this is true, if a DMP program or DMP graduates do not have, its own meta theoretical, focus, or we can say, philosophical, perspectives or philosophy of, nursing. And that means, it can be influenced by, other discipline, other people very easily, right? So that can be a problem. And then how about, you think this author's argument is true? How do you think? I think you maybe directly or indirectly, meeting, right, DMP related, personnel. And then you also maybe heard about it or read about DMP program. Do you feel that there is a lack of meta-theoretical focus?
Well, I think it would depend on the programs. I would imagine there's some programs out there that are not, that do have a little bit more focus. Not all of them are that way.
Okay. So how about, we go further and then later, you can think about again. And so here, the author talk about, rote round. So in the past, and nursing education and practice, what, this type of learning means.
Yes. Well, I like the piece in the past where, we focused essentially on, various different, separate theories and so forth. And I know that also kind of goes in line with the Thorne article as well.
Okay.
That have really seen, put into place and into action. Like I just, even the terminology evidence-based practice, leads to itself from medicine and not nursing. Even that discussion that comes about is we talk about evidence-based practice, but not nursing practice.
And then, but in the future, as you know, the nursing education has been done in hospitals, right?
Right.
So at that time, how they learn the knowledge and skills? By what?
It was not, culture did not influence things. So it was more of just, I think of it as just step by step, like in teaching skills in the foundations lab, step 1, step 2, step 3, without bringing in all the other aspects that impact that patient and should impact your steps to best meet their needs.
Yes. That ability to question.
Yes. How do you think that? Okay, Lori, you want to say something?
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to. I think Susan and I always talk at the same time. So I'm so sorry. I was just saying, in more of a technical focus of learning a skill versus, like Ashley was saying, the other aspects and that cultural, spiritual aspect of nursing, and more of the skill of nursing versus the art of nursing and understanding.
Yes. And questioning nothing during that time, not questioning any science and so forth.
Right. Exactly. So philosophy of science, here, philosophy in general related to inquiry. So we raise questions, but in this kind of education method, in general, no questions. Simply just, watch and then learn and then practice. That is the majority thing has been done. So what is lacks here is a kind of, meta-theoretical focus at that time, right? They just, simply follow. So do you think, because you are all, education field, so do you think nursing education still does have this kind of teaching method or education method?
Yeah, I can tell you from being in an associate degree program, because that's what, when I'm reading this, I'm really making connections with the associate degree program. And really the goal of an associate degree is to get them clinically ready for practice. So a lot of the focus gets on the clinical skills, the KSAs, what can they actually apply? And there's not as much focus on the theory. I know that when I'm teaching, I try to bring in some kind of theoretical base, but really the theory comes when they get to the next level, or at least you hope that when they get to the RN to BSN level, that it's incorporating more theory. But when they have learned initially just the focus around just the skill, the doing, they miss that foundation of why you do what you're doing.
Yes.
And so I've actually held meetings about that, trying to get the faculty to realize that we've got to help them know why they do it. That way they'll be a little bit more committed. They're a little bit more rooted into the practice. I mean, even if it's as simple as why we wash our hands, Florence Nightingale taught us that one. So just the understanding the why behind the practice helps them be a little bit rooted, and they can carry it further.
Yeah, so when you say that, I did the same thing when I was an ICU nurse, and then I gave orientation to nursing students, and then I talked about 2 hours only about vital signs. And then all other nurses said, what are you talking about for 2 hours, But I started like this, okay, what is the blood pressure? And then still the facial expression, that's, 1980s, late 1980s. They looking at me like this, are you crazy, blood pressure is a blood pressure. What do you mean, that kind of a facial expression.
So, don't look like that now, but.
Yes. They could not answer to 90% of my questions, because then I asked, okay, if a blood pressure is high, why you have to reduce it? And the student is thinking, hello, high blood pressure, we should reduce. And then I say, why? Right? So that is a really, really important. And then so what kind of, question we raise, and then how to answer to the question, or how to resolve the, problem, that whole kind of a thing in part is connected to philosophy of, science. Because that's the way how we get to the truth, or how we get to, the knowledge.
Yes. And I think, I love that Cartessa brought into the aspect, the associate degree level, because I think you can even bring that forth into looking at the DNP curriculum and how it's so varied in terms of the theory courses and how many they have, and is philosophy covered, and so forth, and those varying degrees, and still looking at the same kind of, outcomes and quality outcomes. And, I think the struggle, again, I love that you brought in the associate degree level, because I think it transcends all the way to the DNP, like we're talking about.
Yes. So then, we had, in the history, we know we had that kind of a period. And after that, what changes were made in philosophy, in nursing, after middle 20th century? according to this article, and also historically.
A philosophic view of science and cultural preferences and those kinds of things were brought in after the 20th century.
Yes, so what kind of a term we use for that kind of a perspective?
The postmodern philosophical view, is that?
Yes. So we say postmodern, or post structure, because before we had a structure here. This is just fixed. But after that, we just talk about postmodern, and then so when we did this postmodern, and then we just acknowledge some subjectivity that also impact how nursing deal with clients, and so we just say consider patients preference and their values. But before we just provide, okay, this is what you should give, and then give to everybody. But after that, it changed. So one of this kind of change is also our term. For example, we commonly say, in my case, heart failure patient. So we commonly say heart failure patient. And then more and more recently, reviewers just point out to not say heart failure patient, because that's a kind of a disease or condition focused, but we should, a human being focused. So we have to say patients with heart failure, not heart failure patients. So that is a kind of a reflecting this postmodern, philosophical view. So we are more, acknowledge some subjectivity in science, and also how we care patients. Then how do you think the nursing practice is a stand-alone phenomenon, or nursing practice is more connected to under kind of a philosophical view? How do you think?
It should be a direct outcome of philosophic beliefs.
Okay.
And the article states that, but I also agree with that.
Okay. So this author just argued that, DNP graduates kind of should have a clear ground of philosophy of science, or, meta-theoretical views. Why? Why they should have?
Well, again, to advance the science, they've got to have that groundwork and that understanding of what is known, and in advanced nursing science. So the groundwork, of course, being critical to that.
Yes. Okay. Yes.
Oh, sorry. And two, just because the number two there, because nursing practice is not a standalone phenomenon.
Yes. Because whatever human beings behaviors cannot stand alone, and at the same way, DNP program also just a stand alone phenomenon. They came from some background or history of nursing, and then they also go forward connected to other nursing phenomenon, and also even other disciplines, right?
Right. I was just going to say that it's also because it adds to what you were saying, because they're also doctorally prepared. They do have the obligation of contributing to what is yet to come, or advancing the practice as well. So that theoretical foundation should be seeking those things out so that they can contribute to the advancement of the practice.
Yes, that is one nature of doctorate education. Doctorate education, raising inquiry is really, really important, and they have to know how to, raise questions about truth or phenomenon, and also they have to know how to get to there, right? So in that sense, definitely they have to have those, philosophical view. And then we will, talk about argument. So let's just say, so you, I believe, watched the YouTube video and also the model. So what are the three major components of argument?
The
Claim, data,
grounds,
and warrant. Yeah.
Evidence and warrant.
Yeah.
Okay, so what's the relationship among them?
There are underlying assumptions between them all. They all have to support and kind of prove each other.
Okay, how about if you throw arrow, which one impact which one? Or which one connected to which one?
Well, your claim must be based, of course, on your grounds.
Yes.
And then to warrant the claim, you're providing that, further evidence, justification, I believe, is what the video said.
Okay.
Back that up even further.
Okay. Anyone else?
I really liked the illustration of the claim and the data being held up, basically, or the warrant or the backing or those underlying assumptions. Really, without that, then your claim and your evidence can't really balance each other out.
Yes. So here is a ground or evidence or data, whatever we call. So this one just here, and then here is our claim, what we wanted to argue, and then warranty is connect this data to claim. So it's making sense and to be logical. Then what is a claim?
That's your thesis.
Yeah.
Your assertion, yes.
Yes. So that's what you wanted to say to your readers, right? So we can say thesis or assertion, whatever it is. So that's a very central. If you conduct your own research, you should have your claim. So how claim can be presented in your research proposal. What component show your claim in research proposal or a manuscript?
Oh, evidence.
Evidence shows your claim.
To help back up your claim.
Okay, I will give you some example. One is a purpose statement, and one is a hypothesis, so one is a method. Which one show your claim clearly?
Say the three again, if you don't mind.
Sure. Purpose statement, hypothesis, and method. Or
it's a hypothesis.
Hypothesis. I think it's a hypothesis.
Yeah, so in general, hypothesis are how it is presented. Let's say A and B. In hypothesis, if A is connected to B, and in hypothesis in general, how it's expressed.
It's
so if
the conclusion that you want the people, the readers to get to. It's the case that you're trying to your main point that you want them to get out of this.
You
do this.
Yes. And in hypothesis, later you will learn, different, hypothesis, research questions, and directed hypothesis, non-directed hypothesis. You will learn, many different things. But one type of hypothesis can be like this. For example, higher sodium intake will be, connected to or associated with higher rehospitalization rate, right? This kind of a thing. So here, your claim is higher sodium, is connected to, right, higher hospitalization rate. That's for example, can be your claim. Looks like. And then so here I want all of you connect this one into your own, research. So right now, the majority of them do not have a, very clear research focus, but at least think about it doesn't need to be, truth, okay? So just to think about what claim you want to make related to your own research. Anything. Like as I say, right? In my case, if I wanted to say not only higher sodium, but also low sodium can adversely impact hospitalization. That's what I want, one possible claim that I can make. So, do you have any claim? That's the practice.
You want to hear
Yes.
our claim? Okay,
Yes.
so I'll give you one. I'll be a guinea pig here, but nursing students with learning disabilities will require alternative learning devices to help them succeed in the program.
Okay. In that case, so one thing, when you make it, and then it's clear. One is your, population, and I didn't put, my population, but as you know, my population is a heart failure. But anyway, so there is if you will use intervention, and intervention you have to definitely include. If you don't have an intervention, you will have an independent variable versus outcome variable, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then your the population. So that is the major component. So okay, so just keep in mind what claim you have, all right? Because you will continue about this. How about Ashley? What can be your claim?
Well, I was thinking about my main area of interest so far has been looking at nursing programs in the U.S., nursing education in the U.S. compared to other countries. But one alternate area of interest is the impact of stress on teaching and learning.
Okay.
Thinking about beginning nursing students.
Okay.
Specifically. So
okay.
I guess a claim there would be that many disorders can originate from stress.
Okay, so can you say your claim can be stress will adversely impact teaching and learning?
That's even better, because I think disorders could originate from stress or be more likely, that probably is very broad. I mean, you could bring in so many, it affects every system in the body, right? So you're right. The claim really is that learning is affected by when stress levels, increase to an unhealthy level.
Yes. So when you make your claim, those are the relationships that should be very clear. What is independent variable and what is outcome variable? That should be very clear. And then also the relationship should be very clearly presented. How about Kelly?
Well, my topic, also very broad, but just thinking about medical mission work, and I would like for nursing students to be more a part of that. And my hope is that they would, I guess, mutually benefit, that the underserved, medically underserved people would benefit from medical care, but also that the nursing students would, that it would further their learning, advance their learning, give them good experience. So I guess my claim would be that this medical mission work does positively affect or advance the learning of the nursing students.
Okay. And then how about Susan?
Sure. Let's see, my claim is that theory-driven evaluation for program evaluation will provide an alternative approach to the accreditation process. And as part of that, I guess I could say, claim being a comprehensive method of program evaluation.
Okay, so what is the outcome?
Outcome would be actually a theory-driven evaluation model.
So your outcome is a development of a theory-based evaluation plan?
To create a, well, one of them could be a, let's see, I was basing on Chin's theory-driven model for program evaluation. Is one potential thought is to create a theory-driven evaluation model for graduate programs in nursing.
Okay, so if you develop that one, what could be possible outcome?
Let's see, model for program evaluation.
Yeah, if you develop, a model, and then developing a model itself cannot be ultimate, outcome.
Oh.
So what could be, the outcome? Because it's always very important to include the outcome. For example, you have to test whether the model is effective or not. So how can you know that model is effective? So you have to have a clear, outcome, how you, test. So if you develop that kind of model, and then what is your goal, and then you can start from your goal and then actually find a specific outcome, right?
Right. And so, yes, have specific outcomes that are related to effective program evaluation based off of the model.
But you're saying that has to be included within our claim, right? Where the outcome is part of the actual construction of the claim.
Yes. So for example, your claim say, using, theory-based evaluation plan will be, positively impact, the success of, accreditation something. So you have to, in your claim, you have to include your independent variable or predictor variable and also your outcome variable.
Got it.
Okay, so Susan, you can, when we talk, you can think, what could be your clear claim statement. Gotcha. Okay, how about Lori?
Okay, let's see. So I would like to, I guess my claim would be, would a transition into practice nursing course improve new graduate nurse retention over the time of like 3 years?
Yes, that can be, a claim because you included innovation and also outcome and also population in your claim statement, right? Okay. Then how about we talk about, okay, where is it? Okay. And so what is the data or ground?
The data is your evidence.
Your evidence, yes.
Okay. So what can be evidence for your claim?
That would be the actual, I guess, whatever research method and the data that you obtain from that research method to include.
Okay. So this can be some kind of a logic or, theory, right? According to this theory, for example, empathy will improve. Nurses' empathy will improve patient-centered care, for example. And then, or sometimes, the logic, A has been known this way, B has been known this way, thus A will be impact C. That kind of, logic also can be, one data, or statistics. We commonly use statistics to emphasize why we have to do this study, or sometimes facts. Then data support, claim, and then, so remember all of your claim, and then can you just provide the one data support your claim?
I think I can. This is without having done a whole lot of research yet.
Yes.
But I have nursing students with learning disabilities take longer to comprehend and decipher theoretical information.
So let's say you found that kind of, support from the literature. right? Then, it can be a, data. Okay. How about Kelly? Can you think about any data to support your claim?
Well, and I'm not sure, haven't done any lit review or anything yet, but would that, like when I do my lit review, and if I can find other information on, mission work with nursing students, I mean, I guess that would fall in that category, right? That would be data. I don't know if there are statistics or not to support my claim, but if I could find some, that would be great. But I guess if I find a bunch of supporting articles, I mean, that would fall in that category, correct?
Yeah, so here, so you didn't do, literature review, but just, this is just a practice, how you can, develop this kind of argument. So at this time point, it's just based on, your knowledge and also your common sense. If you claim this, how you can support, this claim using any statistics theory or, logic, okay? How about Ashley? How can you support your claim?
Well, in the area of stress, of course, there is a lot of information and studies on the effect of stress on the body and on the brain. But and I'm sure, and I haven't really looked yet, but there is a lot of support for the impact on stress when it comes to learning and being able to retain, and from a nursing student perspective, then to be able to apply that information. So for
example, in your case, like from the literature, if you can find, first of all, the stress level should be high in, nursing students and teachers, because if a stress level is not high, even you don't care about stress.
Yes, right? It's getting it to that healthy level. I think this topic for me, I mean, is new this week in terms of my area of interest, just of watching our beginning level nursing students, and I want to keep their stress level, here, kind of midway. They've got to care, they've got to have care and concern, but I feel like they're here, and I feel that. What is said, what is demonstrated, it can't go in. It's just not able to, because they're way up here.
Okay, so always remember, if your phenomenon is a stress, if that is not a problem in that population, you don't need to even care. So you always have to check, this is really a problem in this population, right? That is the first. And then second is, you can, present the data that, high stress level in general, not only, in this population, but maybe, some other population, in general, reduce the productivity, that kind of thing you can find. And then you can, provide that data to support your claim. How about Khadija?
You want my evidence again?
Your data, yes.
Oh, my data?
What kind of evidence do you have to support your claim?
My evidence is really built around what the problems that the evidence is around, the problems that are shown. So students who they're reading slower, they don't have time to gather all the information because they're struggling within their disabilities. So it's literally impacting their ability to even gather the information, let alone being able to apply the information.
Okay. How about Lori? Can you think about any evidence or data to support your claim?
I have just a brief, I guess, review of what kind of research has already been done out. I've seen a lot of research about like nurse residency programs and hospitals methods for implementation to try to help those nursing students transition into roles.
Okay.
We're still seeing turnover despite different programs. So maybe, I guess, the evidence or the supporting, do we need to do something different on the nursing education side to help with that change, because obviously changes in the hospital orientation or residency period alone are not fixing the problem.
Yes. So you can just provide, there is some those kind of programs show the low retention rate. I mean, high retention rate, but why those hospitals do not have those programs have a high just drop out that kind of rate, and then so that kind of data you can provide. How about Susan?
Sure. For the theory-driven piece, outcomes or claim could be that there's lack of one aspect could be lack of community inquirer input, in community of interest input, within program evaluation aspects.
Mm-hmm. And for example, you can see, for example, I know practically it's difficult, but theoretically, for example, you can examine those institutions were successful for getting accreditation, and then versus not successful. And then if those programs, if not successful, if they don't have a theory-based model versus those successful have a theory-based model, and then you can fully support your claim by data, right? That's
Oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, that's how you can use the data to support your claim. So your data always should be directly close to your claim, right? Every time. And then how about what is a warrant?
Justification. What justifies your evidence which supports the claim?
The reasoning.
What's the reason? Yeah, the reasoning.
Mm-hmm.
It has to be true in order for this to, for like Lori said, it has to be true to hold everything else up.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Yes, one nature of a warrant is it should be, justified and true, because if this is wrong, and then your claim, cannot stand, right? So warrant is, we just say some, links between your data or ground and your claim. And then, so warrant kind of, assumptions, whether it's implicate or, explicate. And then also, as you say, warrant should be, true. And then I will just say, I didn't say, let's say in my claim, I say, high and low to low sodium intake, increase the hospitalization rate. And then my data, I can show some, articles show the high sodium people connected to high hospitalization, but at the same time, low, too low high sodium also increase the hospitalization. That can be my data. And then in my case, my warrant can be, I can say, high sodium, increase kind of a pathophysiologic changes in heart and cardiovascular systems, and then they also collect the water, and then which lead to severe symptoms, and then severe symptoms lead to high hospitalization rate. And then also very low sodium, also they impact neurohormone changes. It can impact cardiovascular function, which lead to high hospitalization. So that can be my warrant. So my warrant is based on biophysiological changes or the biophysiological function of sodium related to ultimately lead to hospitalization because of worsening symptoms, right? So this kind of knowledge has been, already has been known. So I can use this one to connect why high and low sodium intake is connected to, right, the high sodium, high hospitalization. So what can be your warrant? It can be assumption, or it can be, as I showed, biological, pathway or pathophysiological pathway or psychological pathway or people's, preference. It can be, anything. As you saw in the example from, those slides, you can see, one warning was, people prefer white teeth. Even though, toothpaste make, teeth wider, but if people, they don't care, whether white or not, or even people do not like a wider, teeth, and then they claim cannot stand, right? People will not buy, that, toothpaste.
But even in the example that you just gave, couldn't you, if you were, let's just say, in an environment where they didn't care about their teeth, but wouldn't it be, as health professionals, wouldn't it be a good idea to create a claim that now generates different behaviors? So they may not have cared before, but because of now what you're introducing to them, you've now generated something different. And you gave them the evidence and you justified, you did all these things in an area where they didn't care about white teeth, but now maybe they'll have better dental habits because of your research.
Yeah, but the seller, what they wanted to say is, so purchase ours because ours is better, right? Mm-hmm. So that kind of thing, when you make your own claim, and then if you have, something to support, the data, connect your data and the outcome, it will be, better. So any of you have think about any warrant?
Well, I think for me, it would be that stress, high levels of stress negatively impact learning.
That's your claim. Then what can be your warrant?
Yes. Would it be just the pathophysiology behind the stress, effects of stress on the body?
Yes. You can think about, stress impact not only body, but psychological condition, for example, psychognitive, and also cognitive, function. For example, you can argue that, severe stress reduce, attention, capacity, which can lead to poor, teaching and learning, right? That kind of a thing directly connect the data that, high stress level, show the, very high stress level among those population, and then high, stress level in general, they show the, one type of, lower, right, learning experience, that kind of thing. And then you can explain that your claim based on, the not only cognitive one and also psychological one and also, physical one, because in general stress really, draw energy from the person. So you do not have, sufficient energy to fully focus on the learning or teaching. So that kind of thing can be your warrant, right? How about Kelly? Can you think about any warrant for, connect your data and your claim?
Well, I guess my claim would be that nursing students who have participated in medical mission work are better prepared to be nurses.
Okay.
So I guess my warrant, I guess I would need to show that nurses are not getting enough, or nursing students are not getting enough hands-on experience, or I'm not really sure.
In your case, your data need to show, nursing students do not, engage in kind of a, mission. And then in your warrant can be, the students put value on, mission. And also your outcome, also, student put value on your outcome. If they do not put, the value on your outcome, whatever, good program, they will not be, involved in, right?
Right.
So, okay, Khadija, so can you think about any warrant for your claim?
Yeah, I think so. I think mine is more of an assumption, but
Okay.
so establishing supplemental learning strategies would make translating information easier and faster, allowing students more time for application and analysis.
Okay.
That was really wordy.
Yeah, later, if you actually search, the literature and also theory, and then you can, develop a lot easily, any warrant. How about Susan?
Sure. Warrant for mine is that, the programmatic accreditation method of evaluation lacks a comprehensive method of program evaluation. So I guess to kind of squeeze it in a little bit more, the accreditation model of evaluation lacks a comprehensive method of program evaluation.
If you provide a warrant, in a sense, a more positive way, it can be more effective. For example, you can say, theory-based, evaluation plan, for example, provide a more structured and comprehensive way to evaluate.
That sounds much better.
Then you can say that's why using this theory-based something will lead to positive outcome, right? It's
Right.
easy to say.
Yes, that sounds much better. Thank you.
How about Lori?
Well, I guess the warrant or the assumption would be that despite, I guess, education of technical skills, competencies or theory competencies, that new graduate nursing students still are not prepared for the transition into the role of the nurse.
Can you just present that one in positive way to support your claim? Because the warrant should, connect your data and claim at the same time. Your warrant should support your claim.
So that would mean more that a transition to practice focus in a nursing program would help students transition to their role as a nurse?
You can say transition, and then you can say, connect, right? The previous condition to the next condition seamlessly. So give, better kind of, continuity in, learning. So can be, ultimately lead to, better, prepare the nurse, right? So you can emphasize a kind of positive and or strength of, transitioning, that kind of a program, right? Then it can connect your data and your claim and also directly support your claim, right? Okay.
That's awesome.
So what is backing?
It's more specific data that would support the warrant.
Yes, so backing, you may have a backing or do not have a backing. Not always those 6 components should appear. Sometimes maybe you don't have a backing. But in some cases, I may support my warrant. I just pathophysiological that one, and then I can actually provide the actual evidence that sodium led to that kind of pathophysiological phenomenon. Right? I can support the specific articles to show that specific phenomenon in specifically patients with heart failure, right? So do you think you have any backing for your warrant? Can any of you, this is not, the major component, so you may have or you may not have. So any of you have a backing for your warrant?
I think mine would be the pathophysiology, the effects of stress on the body. That would just be supportive data.
Yes. So, for example, your warrant can be, cognitive and psychological, phenomenon. And then you can back up, that one, how that, psychological and cognitive thing can happen through, pathophysiological changes, right? So that way you can, back up. So overall, your warrant and backing together, it will show cognitive, psychological, pathophysiological changes showing stress lead to more, lack of learning and teaching experience. Okay, and then let's go to next. What is a qualifier?
That's what is it? The strength of the claim.
Yeah, strength of the claim.
Yes, modify. Yeah, strength of the claim. How the claim is true.
This is a kind of a not very easy concept. So this is just showing kind of an extent of a probability. So considering, the data and then, warrant and how your claim can possibly happen. So sometimes a qualifier is very, strong. So because of this one, very strongly, you can say, very strongly, this one, the claim can be happen. So anyway, qualifier is the same thing. You may have or, you may not have. And then what is rebuttal?
Well, acknowledging the counter argument.
The exception to the claim.
Yes. So, for example, in my case, if, I say high sodium, cause negative impact, and then some study can show high sodium actually cause the positive effects. That can be, liberal. Kind of some, opposite to my case, or limit, my case. So for example, if you, just say this specific intervention will be helpful for this person, but you may say, however, this one cannot be, applied to this specific subgroup of people.
So can I ask a question?
Yes.
So, because I'm kind of struggling trying to put it all together, or at least separate all these categories.
Okay.
So in my case, if I'm trying to prove that or show that by implementing something for this specific population, the students with learning disabilities, I'm going to improve their success rate. Would my rebuttal, or would a rebuttal be that really several students, disability or not disability, really kind of have the same kind of issues, and they all have the same struggles with passing the NCLEX? So does that not make my claim as strong if several students are having the same problems?
No. That's why I say those are the three components, the claim and then data or ground and warrant are necessary components, right? And then the other three you can have or you do not have. But we just think about, rebuttal case because we sometimes have to know exactly what the limitation of our research. And then also we have to think about, the generalizability. So for example, if I, let's just say if I have one intervention to improve, heart failure symptoms, and then this intervention may not be beneficial for those patients who do not have heart failure symptoms, right? And then if you develop one intervention for patients with heart failure to improve depression, and then if those patients, heart failure patients do not have a depression, may not have, benefit from, applying my intervention, right? And then nursing student, by the way, nursing student, every student should pass the, NCLEX. However, let's say if one student do not want to become a nurse, do not want to take NCLEX, right?
Wasted a lot of money.
Right.
I know, that's a very, very, rare. But let's say, senior, and then the student, change mind, even though we're graduate, but do not want to be a nurse, but, wanted to be a lawyer. So don't want to take, NCLEX exam.
Or like another rebuttal for Cortez, I was trying to think, in terms of being accommodating just to students with learning disabilities, could not the rebuttal be, well, shouldn't all learning environments be accommodating?
Yeah.
So that could be the rebuttal that, well, wouldn't you do this for everyone? So why, tell me why I need to do it for just these.
I'm writing that down. That's very good.
So there are, many cases. So you have to know this whole thing together. You need to do thorough systematic literature review, so you can clearly know what kind of a claim you can make based on evidence, right? So data directly came from, your literature review. Warren also can come from, your literature review, right? So ultimately, your claim also will come from, literature review. So without literature review, you cannot go anywhere else. That's why I emphasize the importance of a systematic literature review, and also you have to know correct search method. So any of you see the PowerPoint of what I attached for search evidence? I'm hoping all of you, just looking at it, and then I think it will be, beneficial to know, even though you already had experience for systematic literature review, you can check one more time whether you know correctly or not how to do, systematic literature review. Because if you do not do correctly, and then you can miss, important articles. And then in that case, what could happen is your conclusion may be incorrect. If you develop your own research based on incorrect conclusion, later you will be in trouble, right? So to not make, fatal mistake, and then you have to do thorough systematic literature review about your area. So what I want you really strongly encourage you is to do, just a brief systematic literature review within this semester about your interest area. Then you can, after you find it, another thing what you can do is then after you search all article, then you add, one more term in your search that is systematic literature review. Then you can find the systematic literature reviews. And then if your area is very new, you may not find a systematic literature review. Right. But if your area, has been done for a while, you can find the systematic literature review. Good thing is a systematic literature review, you can know the patterns, the trend in that research area in short time period. So at least okay, until now, what have been done, also what has been known, and then what I'm thinking is really valuable or can be justified, through today, we talked about those 6 components, and then so you can think about, further more clearly. Okay?
This is a great model, by the way. I've never been in contact with it before, so I appreciate it.
Yeah, because I just whatever we do in this class, as I told you, I want you connected to your own, research topic.
Thank you.
Because if you do not do that, what you learn is there. Later, what you do here.
Yeah.
So it's hard to, connect. But from the beginning, if you continually connect to your topic, ultimately will lead you to, narrow down your own research. And then another thing what you can do is we have several faculty members here, and then you can approach one of our faculty member. It can be based on population, or it can be based on topic, or it can be based on, the kind of a disease or research methodology. And then, when you come here, especially you can, contact through email or, any other way. But another one is when you got here, and then even, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, you can talk about, okay, this is my research, area, and then how do you think, that kind of thing. Yesterday, I talked with one faculty, and then the faculty said, she said, they did a pre and post test intervention related to simulation. And then she said that they have some, difficulties to, they have to work for their manuscript. And then I said, how about, to publish pre and post test? And then she said, yeah, it's not, easy. So I said, yes, more and more. 10 years earlier, pre-post test, it's easy to publish. But over time, more people is using randomized controlled trial. More rigorous, robust, study design. So if more people do randomized control trial, it's more difficult to publish, lower level of, the study design. So I asked her, so what you do? And then she explained. And then I say, in that situation, you can do randomized control trial very easily. And then I said, so she said their class, consists of 2 steps. One is a lecture, and second is, simulation. So they did, pre-post test. So before they do, after they do. So I said, how about in that case, you do randomized controlled trial. So we have one faculty, you met, him, right? Dr. Randall. So his major is statistics. So I told her, how about ask, Dr. Randall to do randomization for your student. And then before you provide, the lecture, you can assess, data. After you provide the lecture, and then you collect the data from both groups. And then the next week, you provide a simulation only to the intervention group, but collect the data from both groups. So control group, do not have an intervention yet. And then the next week, you can provide the simulation class to the control group. This way, you collect the data 3 times, and then you use the randomized control. And then you can check whether no lecture versus a lecture, how the score changes. And then lecture versus the simulation, how the scores change. So I told her that's a very easy way to conduct, randomized controlled trial. And then she said that she will talk with, another faculty, to talk about it. And then she's very, appreciate for that information.
Definitely. And we need more interventional, type studies in nursing patients. So that is, that's perfect.
Yes, so that is, if, so I told her there is not much, changes of what you are doing, but that way you can, conduct the most rigorous study design very easily without, too much, burden. So that kind of thing is always a kind of, needed. So that's why it's important for you to talk with, any faculty member who have experience regarding topic or population or research methodology, whatever. And then, you can narrow down, continually. And then if you just determine your focus area as early as possible, and then whatever paper you do, you can connect to your own project if you can. right? If you can, determine topic by yourself, and then you can, select your own topic for your class papers, right?
Yes.
And then in this class, at this time, the topic, for argument paper, you have to select from, the article. Maybe next year, I can change that to connect it to your own research. So, that kind of thing is always possible. So if you want, I can change, the third analysis, argument paper, not, from the article. Another option is from, your own, topic. So you can do, some brief systematic literature review, and then you can find the one argument, and then you can, write your paper, right? So I think that can be, helpful. So you can see how strongly you can provide the data for your claim, and then whether you can find the actual, warrant for your data, and also even, backing. And then you can, say, the qualifier. So these, overall, possibly, so this, claim can be, or you can say strongly this, claim, can be. And then also you may, during that process, you may find the reviewer, right? That, oh, oops, this is unexpected. Or, oh, I cannot apply, mine to this case, that kind of thing. So it will be, I think, very, helpful for you to do.
Oh, yeah.
So if you want, so you have a 3 argument paper, right? And then each argument paper you have, some articles you can use. But the third one, I will allow you to use your own, area. You can, just use maybe 5 to 10, articles, generate, claim, and then provide the data, and then, warrant to connect your, data and claim.
Oh, that would be
On the other
great.
hand, I have something later I will talk about you. By the way, next week I will go to a conference in Philadelphia. But so I will do this class in my hotel.
Oh, you weren't inviting us?
And then November, I will go to the American Heart Association conference, but I will finish this course, and at that day, I will take, airplane. But anyway, that's the case. After almost closing this class, I will also talk about one change. I will make one change for, I think, a November class. You have a formation of a scholarship. And then originally I set up a, June class. So I will cancel the June class. And then we will see in the, actual face-to-face class here. So we have 15 minutes instead of, 2 hours. So at that time, what we will do is I will just give you kind of some, homework you can do so we can process a class in 15 minutes very quickly. Okay? So how about logical reasoning and logical, fallacies? So I think here the YouTube, I think he provides many examples. Sometimes of politics, sometimes the advertisements. So anyway, so he presented 3 different reasoning methods. So what those 3 different methods? Oops. 2 of them you learned from our previous class.
The deductive, inductive, and analogical.
Yes. So what is a deductive?
It's moving from general to specific information.
Breaking it down. Yes.
Yes. And then what is inductive?
Building up the opposite direction.
Yes.
Yeah, so opposite direction. So specific started from specifics and to go to general, right?
Yes.
And then what is analytic?
That reasoning based on similarity of two things.
Yes, so you compare these two. And then that analytic, especially, I think you can see a lot of advertisement and political arguments.
Yes.
So sometimes that is very good, and sometimes really bad. Because sometimes both of them not true.
Right.
But you are forced to select one, or looks like one is better than the other, and then people do not think whether they are truth or not, and then they just follow.
That's actually kind of what they were saying in some of it, is that they really they just wanted you to do this action. They really didn't care what you thought about the content or the essence of it. It was just they just want you to do this action, and that's a downside to a lot of this.
Yeah. In the YouTube video, I think you heard that at the last moment he talked about some kind of logical policies, and then one person say that's what I'm always also talking is not every person is logical, right, or rational. That's one common mistake as a healthcare provider, because when you provide the care to patient, you think the patient is rational and reasonable. So if you provide this is good, so you have to do, and then we think they will follow it.
Yes.
But think about yourself. Think about your eating habit. As a nurse, you know what is good, what is bad. And you do follow only good things?
Not even close.
Yes. Especially when I go to conferences, right?
Also think about whether what you talk, what you say is reasonable. For example, especially considering your family. What the parents commonly say to their kids, and then say do this, and then their kids why, and then mom say because mom said so. Right? That's very common. When I was young and until high school student, and then I had argument, sometimes argument with my mom, and then definitely I'm a lot more logical than my mom. So every time my logic won against my mom's logic. The problem is at the end, if my mom say to not have anything to say, always my mom's last statement was, "How dare you have a back talk to
Right?
me?
How dare you question me?" Yes. Yes.
And I feel kind of the victim of that talk. But I know, that's my mom's lost self-esteem. So even though I have many things to say, but I just stopped there. If she said so, and then I stopped. So another thing is, as you see, politicians, the debate or discussion, you can think logically who is correct. But people always follow those politicians who have a more logical argument.
No, not at all.
Not always. One day I had a very insightful experience that really impacted me quite a bit. I had a very close relationship with one nurse. She graduated at the same university, I think 3 or 4 years later than me. And so we had a very good relationship, close relationship, almost looks like a sisters. One day we had just talking. Even I didn't think that's a debate, because we just say, "Oh, I think I like this because I like this," and then she said, "But I think I like this." So we had definitely different opinions. And then suddenly she cried. So I said, "I did something wrong to you. Why are you crying?" Because we even ever increased our voice. So I could not understand, why she's suddenly crying. And then she told me, don't do like that to other people. So I said, what I did? I really at the time could not understand. And then she told me like this. She said, logically, I cannot against you. Logically, you are 100% correct. So I cannot break your logic. And then she said, however, emotionally, I do not agree to you. And then she said, however, I cannot prove that your logic is wrong. So I feel so powerless. That's what she said. So what I can say is we have to provide our logical argument as much as we can, but on the other hand, logic not always 100% work. So what you have to do is you have to provide a logical argument to fit reflecting the reviewer's perspective too. Right? If you write your paper, for example, as a student, if you submit your paper and then your instructors will review. If you later submit your manuscript, the reviewers will be looking at it. And then if you submit your research proposal reviewers will review your work, right? So when we submit our manuscript, and then one day my former advisor gave me really valuable lesson to me, because she said, if you want to publish whatever they say, just follow whatever they say, unless that is scientifically, logically, practically, ethically, editorially is wrong. So preference-wise, just to say whatever they say.
Right.
However, so one day, I just analyzed the data for her, and then I wrote, the several section of the manuscript regarding psychometric property, test. And then the reviewer said something, how about, you do, one more test and add more items, that kind of a thing. So before I say anything, so my former advisor called me and, asked me to help to answer to, the reviewer's comments. So I said, we don't need to do, I don't know what test is, but we don't need to do that test, and we don't need to add those items, more items. And then I gave her the reason, because convex alpha test is based on reflected by the number of items. So whatever item you add, whether those items are related to the content or not, convex alpha will be increased. Second, we had already, content validity. What that means is we, the expert already looking at it and then say those, items cover all necessary content. So we don't need to add any item. And then third, I say, the other thing I gave, I think 3 or 4, reasons why we don't need to do. But still, her attitude was she searched the internet to check, what that test is. Then she looking at me and then say, "Oh, you are right." The internet said, exactly what you said. So I said, "See, I said so." But her attitude, even though she's a very, senior researcher, internationally known expert and, nurse researcher, but still, if a reviewer say, and then she respect the reviewer and then check, until the end what it is, and then she make a, decision whether she will follow the reviewer's, comments or defend, our position. So definitely in that case, we defended our position because we already had what I say. And then the third one was the convex alpha was 0.73. What is acceptable for, convex alpha in that case was 0.70 or greater. So ours is already 0.73. So we don't need to, increase the convex alpha. So this a kind of a, you know, logical argument you will do a lot when you present. And then, for example, later qualifying exam, you know, your, you know, I mean, faculty return to you and ask questions. In that case, you have two ways, right? Accept what the comments or you defend. So to do that, you have to know very clearly whether the reviewer's request, whether the reviewer is manuscript reviewer, research proposal reviewer, or faculty. You have to know very clearly that is, you know, I mean, true or not. And then if that's not true, you should not follow, right? Instead of that, you have to provide a very clear data and also warrant why the reviewers claim you cannot follow, right? So this kind of a logical argument is not only you present, but also other people, reviewers, especially reviewers will present you, including instructor, right? So that's why you have to know those, you know, what this person's claim, because sometimes, you know, some authors wrongly responded to the reviewer's comments because they did not clearly understand what the reviewer's claim is. And sometimes when they defend, even though they clearly understand the reviewer's claim, but they do provide bad data and warrant, then they cannot defend successfully, right? So there are two ways, you know, you present your own claim, you present the data, you present the warrant. Sometimes you use backing, sometimes you use a qualifier, and also even you present the reviewer and then say, but you know, depute that, you know, reviewer to strengthen your, you know, claim. So that is one way. And then the opposite way is you have to, you know, receive another person's claim, and then you have to determine whether you accept that person's claim or you have to, you know, rebut that person's claim, and then you provide, you know, the data and warrant to support your own claim against, you know, the other person's diverse claim. Okay. So, so among those three reasoning methods, if you just think briefly, which method do you think you will be mainly involved in your research? Rory, can you think about any, do you think you will start from specific case to general conclusion, or start from general conclusion to specific cases?
That's a really good question. Thinking about looking at, I guess maybe from a little to big, some more deductive, just because I'm going to be probably looking at a specific population and probably making generalizations based on that specific population.
Okay, so do you mean you start from general, you know, just principles to specific case, specific conclusion, or you will start from specific cases and then you will, you know, develop a kind of a general conclusion?
I think specific cases to general conclusion.
Okay. Okay, so if you start from, you know, specific case to general conclusion, so that means you will use inductive method, right?
Yes.
Right? Can you remember when we do deductive that we started from, you know, all Frenchmen love art?
Right.
And then the conclusion was Henry, because he's a Frenchman, he will love art, right?
Right.
So if you start from general to specific, and that is deductive. But if you start from, you know, specific cases, and then if you develop, okay, case 1, 2, 3, all showed this. So all, cases will show like this. That is, inductive reasoning, right?
Right.
How
Yes.
about Susan? What is which method you think? You never know later, but at this time point.
Oh yes, absolutely. Because I'm looking at mine. I have a couple ideas, so you'll see that when I submit it.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe more so just looking at overall, maybe backing up a little bit, looking at program evaluation, again, at the national level, at the graduate, I'd like to look at the graduate level of nursing education. So again, deductive, bringing it down, looking at, those that use theory-based evaluation versus those that use the accreditation model, some sort of descriptive correlational scheme.
So just think about what you learned in last class. So in deductive, reasoning, if premises 1 and 2 are true, then conclusion should be true.
If 1 and 2, no. If 1 and 2 is true.
Not necessarily.
Yeah, I would say, yeah, I would say.
And I will remind you before you give answer, inductive way. So 1, 2, 3, 4 are good. Okay, and then 1, 2, 3, 4 came from all the same resource. And then the conclusion is 5 and 6 also will be good. If 1 and 2 is, 1 and 2 premises are true, then the conclusion should be true. 1 is true, 1 is not true. So which one, deductive, inductive, which one is true? Must be true. If premises 1 and 2, both of them are true, then conclusion should be true. Which one is correct in deductive way or inductive way?
I guess bringing it down deductively, that if I know this and I know this, bringing it down, looking at, more specifically in terms of, the theory-based evaluation versus the accreditation model. Like, that's never been separated out, so to speak.
So think about deductive way is like this. So there is, gravity. Everything in the air will be, fall into earth. And then apple is, in the air, on the tree.
Sure.
Then apple will fall into earth or not. That must be true or not, if 1 and 2 is true.
Yes.
Yes, so deductive way, if premises 1 and 2 are true, conclusion should be true, must be true. Yes. However, you learned last week in inductive way, 1, 2, 3, 4 are good. And then they came from the same resources. However, that doesn't mean 5 and 6 automatically true. That's what we say unity, rules last week we said. But unity rules does not, apply to many things. For example, you think about, one family, and then there are 5 sisters and brothers, and think about it. And then 3 of them are very nice. That means, 4 and 6 automatically very nice.
Yeah.
Right? So
you're right.
Inductive way is not, always the conclusion is true. It can be true, but that doesn't mean always must be true, okay? So just remember that. So that's why last week we talked about, then in science we should use only deductive way, because that, proves that, premises 1 and 2 are true and conclusion must be true. So, okay, how about Khadija? What kind of a reasoning method do you think we use?
Well, I would say deductive as well, going from learning about disabilities, which is a big topic, which has been heavily researched in the educational environment and disability environment. So that starting very big and then narrowing down to a focus of specific disabilities, specific learning issues. My issue that I'm thinking I'm going to run across is being able to find specific things related to nursing students. I don't know how much of that has been really researched. Or does that mean I'm conducting studies within finding an environment and just conducting it on my own, which maybe happens, but just kind of taking it from bigger to smaller, which is the deductive.
Okay. How about Kelly?
Well, I'm also leaning toward deductive and just looking at general and then narrowing it down, maybe seeing all of the medical work with underprivileged people that's been done and then sort of narrowing it in. I'm not really sure though.
Yeah. When you use, deductible way, at least you have to, include some kind of, general, law. So it can be applied to anybody or any cases. So you have to have that kind of thing. If you do not have that kind of a general law, you cannot use deductive reasoning, right? You have to start from, specific cases, and then you have to develop, kind of a general law based on specific cases, right? Okay, so how about Ashley?
I think mine would be deductive, kind of that if then and the existence of appropriate relation, and it would move from impacts of stress on learning from a general standpoint to being more specific with the impact on nursing students.
That is a possible, for example, if you have, some theory about, stress, and then if, stress provide some, adverse effects, but one referral to your case, maybe, do you know there is some study showing that a little bit, stress actually improve, the productivity?
Yes, I feel like that's kind of my rebuttal. That's the rebuttal, right?
Yes. Yes, exactly.
Yes.
So that kind of a thing, people, argue that, not, every stress, will decrease, learning and teaching, experience. So you have to more, specifically, focus on, something, right? So you have to maybe, divide the stress, or you have to, provide some, for example, in that case, you may say, yes, but, that range is very narrow, you can say, or you can say, students have, not, that level of distress, but a lot, higher distress that cause, the less productivity, that kind of a thing. So you can talk about it. Anyway, and then, so I believe that from those, YouTube, I believe that you learned about a lot of logical policies, right? What kind of a thing you can remember? What kind of, the mistake you can make that, threaten your claim?
Post hoc of false cause.
Yes. Yeah, there are several, right? For example, one is wrong, comparison, and also circular. So your premise and conclusion the same. So actually, it does not, prove anything. What else you can think about it?
Like straw man, a fake version of the other side's position.
Yes. 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 That kind of thing commonly can happen if you do not do thorough systematic literature review. So for example, what, at the very beginning, the manuscript, what I talked, those authors only looking at one side, showing effectiveness. So they only emphasize that this intervention is effective, and that actually almost broken, their claim and say, okay, if that is, effective, why you conduct your own study? If that's already proved, you don't need to conduct your own study. And then they combined that also broken, their study design. So, okay, each of one already effective. Why you, combine those two together, right? So if, we use some, logical, policies only looking at, present one side, but not in balanced way, it can threaten, your claim. What else?
I consider like the ad populum, like making an argument based on the specific population.
Yeah, or, just, popularity, that is a very common, some, political, even among researchers, yes, there are some, political, researchers, and then they can, just follow some, research because that is right now very popular.
Right.
So logic, the same thing, they can just, use some, very kind of, reputational, famous, researchers, claim or, theory, that kind of things that was not, tested to be, proven. Right? So there are several logical, policies. I just want you to know that so you can prevent and then you can provide a very clear, your own claim and arguments, right? So today you have to submit your research, brief. So I will just looking at it. And on the other hand, I heard from Dr. Brewer, and all of you did a very good job in, your APA paper submitted. So I'm glad that at least you have, basic knowledge about all of you have quite a bit, good basic, APA format. So that is pretty good. And then I didn't put any limitation for, number of your submission. And then the, similarity report, you can see. So what you can do is you can submit in advance, and then I just set up promptly. You can see similarity report. So if you see your report and if you think you have to revise your paper, you can revise and resubmit. However, if you submit a little bit earlier, and then if you want me looking at your paper briefly, whether there is any fatal mistake or not, then send me email specifically, ask me to do so. Okay.
Does the resubmission?
You can just resubmit. You can submit once and then you can resubmit because. In some instructor, so next time you have to be very clear, some instructor will allow you to submit only once. So before the class, you have to check with the instructor whether you can submit more than once or you can submit only once.
Is it okay if the resubmission is after the due date? So for example,
no, it's not allowed. So if you wanna resubmit, you have to submit earlier. For example, if you submit, let's say 5 days earlier, and then you may ask me, I submitted my paper, can you just check briefly whether I have any fatal mistake or not, and then I will check and then I will return to you. If your paper doesn't have any fatal mistake, your submission is set. But if I can find any fatal mistake, and then I will let you know, and then after you revise it, and then you have to submit until the due date. So no submission after the due date. On the other hand, if you want to simply check, whether there is any possibility of plagiarism, unintentional plagiarism. So if you wanted to see how much, similar to, other, articles. So if you need revision, if you want to simply know that, you can just submit in advance, and then you can promptly see the similarity report. by yourself, okay?
With the research interest brief, since it's really our position, is it okay to be in first person?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. So you can just think about, this is one thing is think about your research focus, and then second is I think that's a setup because of the APA format, because it asks you to follow APA format. So if you see APA format, whatever from the first page to the end, you have to follow double space, 1 inch margin throughout whole paper. So that includes title page, abstract, reference, or whatever. And then when you write your paper, never ever use manually, changing the line until you finish one paragraph. Do not use enter, just go. And then whatever you set up the format, always set up automatically. Okay, so if you go to APA format, you can see some of those instructions. And then especially I found a lot of students set up the reference page manually. Later you will have a problem, so don't do that. And then always automatically set up. Then later, it's a lot easier for you to work. Okay, and then so the research brief is today is the due date, so we don't have a time, and I checked whether any of you submit earlier, but I didn't see it. So, but after this, whatever, paper, if you want to submit earlier, and if you want me to check, very briefly, and then I will do that. But I didn't set up, 2 deadlines. In general, I do frequently in my courses. For this course, I didn't do because there are 6. So it's hard to set up, 2 deadlines for 6, different assignments. So, but instead of that, I can review very briefly if you want me to do so. But if you want me to do so, let me know, okay?
Thank you.
Okay, so I will see you next week. At that time, I will be in my hotel.
Okay.
Okay.
Can we still do, I'm sorry, I had just a quick question on the argumentative pieces. Can we still do those based on perhaps our research topic?
What research problem?
Could we still do the argumentative pieces?
Oh, yes. So that's what I say is the first 2, just using the article what are given. But the third one, last one, yes, you can use your research topic instead of selecting any article from the list. So the third one, you can use your own research part.
Okay.
So it will be, I think, a very beneficial for you. I think if you to do so.
Yes, I appreciate that.
Okay. Any other questions or comments?
Oh.
Okay, so what I want all of you to do is just read those readings in advance our class, and then I will work with you in the class. And then I'm so glad that all of you very actively participate in this class. I think this will really help you to learn, also each other, because all of you are students, but at the same time, peer, teachers to each other. Okay, so I'm very glad all of you work, very well. Okay.
Yes.
So see you next week and have a good weekend. Okay.
Thank
You
you.
too.
Yeah.
Okay. So see you. Bye.
Okay. Bye-bye. We'll see
Okay.
everyone
Bye.
else shortly.
Yes. I will. Yes. We will see. Later. So okay. So okay. Thank you, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.
Okay. Bye.